Okay, I've got a dilemma here. I've got the root system from a camellia bush, and it's quite big. And this is what was growing up out of the ground. The root ball is still under my shed. So this is not going to stay together. It's pretty much separated into a couple pieces. I wouldn't dare try to turn this because it will fall apart. So I'll need to cut that up. Here's a piece that was cut off of it. This right here would make a nice man vase, such as Phil recently made, although it's kind of small. I'm not going to do this one either. Here's another piece off of it. This, maybe I could get something out of. This piece, though, is what I think I'm going to try to turn. I know this wood's hard, and I'm not ready to tackle that big piece until I know what it's really like. It does have some rot in here. I think it's like 7 by 8 and maybe 5 inches. I want this to be the top. I'm going to take this over to the bandsaw and try to saw most of this rotten stuff off to see if I can find a flat area in there to be able to get a tenon on it. Until I do that, I'm not ready to mount it. So I'll go do that and I'll be right back. Alright, this is kind of an experiment. I'm going to see how hard a wood this is. So let me get my face shield. See what kind of RPMs we can get. About 650. Start with a 5/8 sweat back bowl gouge. Alright, so I'm going to switch back to the sweat back gouge and just kind of sneak some of this material off. I will be stopping a lot. I won't make you see all the stops, but I just can't keep turning without checking it. So I think we're going to be okay. I need to get rid of this because it's sort of in my way. I want to try to keep the bark. So I'll get rid of that going the other direction. Stop a lot if you're doing something like this. Okay, I'm going to flatten this off and create a base. I'm going to mark for a tenon. I'm going to square that up to see if that's going to have enough strength. So most of this looks pretty good. I have some ripples up here. So I think I'll go over all of it with the negative rake scraper and get ready to sand it. So yeah, we can sand that now. Start out with 80 grit and I'll work my way up to 400 and then we'll get it flipped around. I'm not going to put any finish on it until I have the other side done. Let's go ahead and sand this in reverse. Around 400 RPMs. It's actually going to sand pretty easy, and I'll be back when it's flipped around. Okay, so I've got it all flipped around. This bark looks like it's going to stay. This is peeling off, and that is what it is. It's been sitting around for quite a while. As a matter of fact, when I cut these pieces smaller, one of them's marked 11920. I wrote 28% on it. I just checked this, it's at 9%. So I think it's done quite well. But I'm done for the night, and I'll work on it more tomorrow morning. Well, it's the next morning, more like mid-morning, but I think we're ready to cut the inside of this bowl. Just looking at all of the ups and downs, it's going to be a little bumpy for a while. But let's get going on that, and I'm going to start with a 1/2 inch swept back bowl gouge, and I've got about 700 RPMs, I think, 720. Well, I think I've got to do it now. I can't really get in there. I'm going to move the tailstock back. Alright, I can get a little better angle on it, not only with my gouge, but with the camera. I can get a little more RPMs now. It's pretty smooth at 1400. I'm going to use this medium-sized carbide. There's just so much air in here, and it's hard to get an angle with the gouge. Okay, we've got at least 1.25 inches there. So we'll start taking some of that away and then blend into it, because this is getting thin where I have that inclusion in there. So switch to a conventional 5/8 bowl gouge here. Okay, so right behind this little knot, I'm down to less than 3/16. I'm not going to take any more off of here. We'll just have little thicker walls. And this crack here was starting to disappear. So I might just keep going a little bit deeper there and see what happens. I know it's not going to all disappear, but so far it's looking a little better with cutting some of that away. So I'm going to use my 5/8 swept back now and try to go a little deeper here. Okay, that looks good. But I think we'll use a negative rake scraper on the upper part. Okay, before I sand this, I have these flat ends that are all chainsaw cut, and I think I sealed those back when I put this away. I'm going to go over it with the Sandiflex, and I'm going to hit this area here where the bark is sort of peeling off, and this area here where it's kind of deteriorated. So we'll do that, and then we'll come back and sand this up. Okay, we'll do that and start with 80 grit on the inside, and it looks like I can sand this under power. Slow it down though. Alright, that's going to work okay. You've got to be careful with these edges here, it'll catch that disc. So I'll be back when we're all sanded up and we'll put a finish on it. Alright, it is time to put some finish on it. And this was really difficult to sand. The wood's hard. I have this, what appears to be a crack, but it's really kind of an inclusion because this came up off of a root system with things growing every which way. But that's really looks nice, and all of the natural edge, it made it a little difficult to power sand, but we got it done, and I'm going to put shellac sanding sealer on it, and we'll finish it with shellac. So I'm anxious to see the colors pop out of this because I certainly can see them in there. Yeah, that's very pretty. Alright, so that's easy enough to do. And this here, the bark peeled off of that, but it's on here really nicely. But at this point in time, I'm going to need to take a brush. And I can get down in here. And then this is pretty rough. Alright, so that's pretty much what it's going to look like. I'll probably only need maybe 2 coats of sealer because the wood is so hard. And I'll get the shellac on it and I'll be back. And we'll have it flipped around and remove the tenon. Alright, it is time to remove the tenon. You can see I do have a good sized crack here, and it goes all the way to my little porthole, and it also connects with this. But I have a nice solid piece of wood on both sides of it. I think we're going to be fine, but I'll be extra careful. Got a bigger block in here to give it a little more support. My padded material, and I'll bring the tailstock back up. Check this and see how it runs. It's not too bad. Start with a 3/8 swept back gouge. And about 600 RPMs. This is sounding pretty thin. I just don't think I want to go any farther. I'm going to take this off and maybe carve it off the rest of the way, sand it up, get some finish on it, and I'll be right back. Well, here it is. It's all done. Definitely an unusual piece. What appears to be a J-shaped crack is actually a bark inclusion, and that goes all the way through to here. And you can see the bark all the way down, and this must have been part of it there because that's lined with bark, and this has a little bark in it. But a piece like this growing that close to a root ball, I'm not surprised that there was many pieces growing together. It did finish 7 3/4 across this way, and it's 7 inches where there were chainsaw cuts. And I just left the chainsaw cuts the way they were and hit them with the Sandiflex, and I'm pretty happy with that. I used 2 coats of shellac-based sanding sealer and 2 coats of shellac, and I'm really happy with that as well. It makes a nice finish. This bark here is really special. It feels like leather. It's on really tight here. It's a fine texture to it. This must have been closer to the ground right here, because you can see it got pretty weathered. Not surprising coming that close to a root ball. I certainly wouldn't use this for any kind of food, not soup or anything. I guess you could put candy if you wanted to, or chips, but I'd be afraid of things falling into the inclusion. So you could just use it for trinkets, or maybe put it on a dresser and keep your wallet or whatever in it. I just really enjoy turning odd pieces of wood. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment, I read them all. Hit the notification bell so you'll know when I have a new one out. It would also be great if you could share my videos around. Thanks to all of you who are subscribed to my channel. It means a lot to me. If you're not subscribed, consider doing so. I do many types of turnings, from segmented work to natural turnings from pieces of trees, and I put out videos weekly. Thanks again. Until the next time, see you later.